Radio, as well as our WhatsApp, as well as our Facebook live feed. You just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. And we're also on our website, rcistlucia.com, and on YouTube. So lots of options to get us on the lunchroom here at RCI. Of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And we are also available on WhatsApp. That is 284-6001. Again, 284-6001. Now, today it's actually the day we take in, well, it's actually supposed to be yesterday. We were supposed to have taken our Republic Corner. We missed that program, unfortunately. So we'll be having our Republic Corner today. So we will be joining that in just a bit for our dish of the day. And a little later on in the program, we're also going to be touching base with the author of a new publication for the year 2026. It's called On the Shoulders of Peasants. And the author, Louise Martha Serie, is going to be in studio with us to discuss this very interesting publication, local publication on an important role of in St. Lucian history and the role of the peasantry. So we'll be discussing that in just a bit as well. I look back in time on this day in the year 1700. The Great Northern War began in Northern Europe between Denmark, Norway, Saxony, Russia, and the Swedish Empire. 1912, on this day, the last Qing emperor of China, Puyi, at age 6, abdicated after losing the support of the Chinese people and thus the mandate of heaven, as it was called. 1947, on this day, French fashion designer Christian Dior presented his first influential collection named The New Look. U.S. President Bill Clinton in 1999, on this day, February the 12th, was acquitted by the Senate in his impeachment trial. In the year 2013, on this day, North Korea allegedly conducted its third nuclear test, claiming it was a nuclear device that could be weaponized. And in 2016, on this day, Pope Francis met Patriarch Kirill in Havana in the first meeting between the heads of the Catholic and Russian Orthodox churches in nearly 1,000 years. And we now move on to our dish of the day.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program here for our dish of the day. We're going to be touching base with Republic Bank Eastern Caribbean Limited. And I believe we already have on air with us Mrs. Helena Mathre Edward. She is the relationship officer over at Republic Bank. And today we're going to be speaking about opportunities, whether you're looking to buy land, purchase a home, perhaps improve what you already have, or even make a smart switch on an existing mortgage. And we've been speaking about that, the Come Home campaign. It's all part of Republic Bank's Independence 2026 promotion right here in St. Lucia. And Helena is the one who's going to be taking us through. Helena is going to be the one who's going to take us through this today. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And of course, thanks for joining us here on the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International for our Republic Corner. Now, we've spoken about this before, and I know you've spoken about it. But tell us, what is the Make It Happen loan? And how does it fit into this current campaign of Republic Bank, this Come Home campaign?
Okay, so our Make It Happen loan more or less help customers finance home-related needs, whether you may want to do consolidation of debt or even more or less invest in improvements to your home. So these facilities could either be secured facilities or unsecured facilities.
Okay, wonderful. Now, is this home purchase financing included as well? I mean, can you go out and actually buy a new home or an existing property?
Mm-hmm. So with our campaign, we want persons to get some form of independence because, sometimes Persons may be living at their parents' home, and they may think, you really think I can afford a house? So we more or less encouraging persons to have some form of independence. So under our independence campaign, um, it encourages persons to more or less acquire a piece of St. Lucia, if I could put it in that way. We have very competitive rates, long-term repayments, and we also are here to support with actually the cost to acquire a property.
Right. So, of course, you may have land valuation costs, conveyance costs, legal
Correct,
costs. So,
correct.
all
Yes,
those, there's support within this program, this campaign, to cover the cost of some of these as well.
correct, yes.
Wonderful. So, tell us about land purchase options under this campaign.
Okay, so with reference to our land promotion under this campaign, we have a specific, well, I wouldn't say a specific target in terms of the market, but it's open to everybody, but specifically encouraging the young buyers to more or less acquire a piece of land, or even those that may currently have land loans at other institutions. We have the options of actually switching across these lots as well at a better and more competitive rate.
Okay. And, of course, we're speaking about land for the purpose of future building
Correct.
of their homes. Right. So,
Yes, that is correct.
residential lots,
Yes.
effectively. Okay. Now, are unsecured loans part of the offer? I think you said so already, but I mean, explain that, how that's going to work out in terms of the unsecured loans.
Okay, so some persons may be hesitant to visit Republic Bank, especially those that may not have accounts with us.
Mm-hmm.
So we are targeting all persons. It doesn't matter whether or not you have an account with us or not. You can be entitled to getting a loan with us. However, we obviously would assess you on a case-by-case basis. We also have very flexible terms in terms of the unsecured loans that we offer. So don't be hesitant to come to Republic Bank to get a loan. It's for every and anybody. Once you are employed, we are able to facilitate giving you
Okay.
a loan.
Okay. Now, nowadays, we're hearing quite a lot worldwide about climate change, and we know there's a big thrust right now. I mean, we're seeing the impacts of it. And a lot of people want to be a lot more independent, perhaps, of the utility companies. They want to be a lot more able to produce their own energy. They want to be able to maybe do rainwater harvesting, or, conserve their water. I mean, especially at a time like this right now with all our water woes.
Yes.
Is there something within this for these types of individuals who are thinking green, who may want to put on solar panels on their roof, or capture the water that's falling on their roof? Is there something for them within this Come Home campaign?
So most definitely, we're actually offering what we call sustainable energy loans, and that's inclusive of like solar systems, energy efficient appliances, and water saving solutions. So we more or less encouraging an eco-friendly home improvement for customers.
So so you can actually lump those into your home construction costs as well if you're building a new home, or maybe if you're buying a new house, an existing property, and you want to make those add-ons, you can in fact cover it through
Most definitely.
through
We
this
certainly
option.
can.
Okay, so that's of course really, really good news
Yes,
for
yes.
persons
And I
looking
think
to.
everybody wants to save. That's person's main focus in saving.
Right, exactly. So I
Yeah.
mean, if you can invest in a solar PV now, and it's all lumped into this a new mortgage, then certainly, the savings will be coming down for you down the road for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why is sustainable financing important though to Republic Bank?
I would say it supports long-term cost savings for customers, and it also aligns our commitment to responsible banking and sustainable development. I would say to that effect, yes.
Now, there may be some people out there, of course, who've already taken the plunge, Ileana, and they've made an investment. Maybe they're 5 years already at their new home. And do you have something to tell them? I mean, they have a mortgage. Maybe they have a mortgage for 30 years. Is there something that Republic Bank can do to interest them?
Most definitely, because some persons may be in a mortgage, let's say for 5 years, and probably they may want to, one, if they have kids, and they may want to finance them in terms of like educational expenses.
Right.
And they're like, oh my God, where am I gonna get the money to do so? We have the option of switching these clients and more or less financing them for these purposes, whether it be educational expenses for the kids, whether it be if they want to, give themselves maybe a vehicle. All of that can be incorporated into that switching mortgage promo that we have as well. So it's tailored to everybody, especially those that already have, well, more or less are stable and they have their own homes. We are able to facilitate switching these clients and providing them with additional resources.
And you may end up getting a better rate, a lower interest
Most
rate.
definitely.
So I
Most
mean, even though
definitely.
you're already in your home and you may be listening to this program, you may still want to get that call, have that conversation with Republic Bank on this matter, because there are some benefits that you could end up gaining in the long run, certainly. Now, credit cards, are they part of the campaign? Is there any offer here for an individual who may want a new credit card?
Yes, so with reference to our independence campaign for persons who have, well, want to switch their mortgage across to us, you actually are qualified to get in what we call a starter advantage credit card. And this is one of our credit cards that are very popular. Because I think in terms of the card, you acquire miles on that card, which can actually be used for traveling purposes, etc. So apart from you switching and you saving from switching, we also give you a startup credit card, and you actually get an introductory bonus miles of 3,000 miles with this card.
Okay, that's good, and definitely it helps on the family vacation if you planning
Yes.
forward and you want to have build up those miles. So it's definitely good to have that credit card, because the more you use it, in fact, the more those miles will be coming through. So I know a lot of people they make their expenses, they use their card to pay for things, but then of course at the end of the month they pay off what's due. But they get the activity and the benefit through those miles. So great option right here. And of course, I mean, you can use your credit card for a lot of things, no doubt.
Most definitely.
All right. Now, Ileana, I think I have to thank you so much for breaking this down for us. And it's pretty clear that Republic Bank is doing through this Come Home campaign quite a lot, offering quite a lot to customers, giving them really practical options in terms of home ownership, in terms of home purchasing, getting land, but doing all of that as well, thinking green, thinking about savings on your utility bills, lots and lots of benefits, whether it's a credit card line of option, miles coming in from that as well. So there's so much that is on offer right now through this Come Home campaign. And it's all part of Independence 2026. And you're going up until, I think, the end of March.
Yes, so the campaign started on the 2nd of February and it ends on the 31st of March, 2026.
Wonderful. So there's enough time for you to start thinking about it and looking at your finances and thinking about whether you want to actually be, it might be a pretty good time to make that decision. And of course, as you mentioned, some of these unsecured, you don't have to be a Republic Bank account holder. So lots and lots of opportunity here for everybody, thanks to this promotion. Any final message for listeners out there, Ileana?
Yes, I will just tell everybody visit Republic Bank. I apologize, and speak to a loans officer. You could even go on to our online banking, which is republicbank.com. bankec.com to actually more or less get an invitation to come in to apply for a loan. And we're here to serve you.
Wonderful. And it's all about making it happen. The Make It Happen loan campaign, program that's been available for some time through this Come Home initiative, this campaign for independence 2026 right here in St. Lucia. Thanks so very much, Juliana Mathre. Edward, relationship officer at Republic
It's
Bank.
Juliana Mathre, actually. Edward.
Okay, well, I take that out then. Somebody needs to make a correction there on our info here.
That's fine.
But thank you very much, Juliana.
Thank you for having me.
And do have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day. And of course, to all our listeners out there, this has been our Republic Corner for this week. So I hope you can join us again next week for another informative session with Republic Bank officials who can give us a really good sense of what is available right now through Republic Bank. That is our dish of the day. And in just a bit, we're going to be touching base with the author of On the Shoulders of Peasants. She is Louise Mathre Serrier. So we're going to be bringing her into studio at this time. We'll be right back.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Island style. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island style. We got the time that will make you happy. Island style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive. In Island style.
We have times and insects, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. Quality, price, service, choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rodney Bay on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's all, of course, to the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. The winds will be blowing between the east and east-northeast and near 21 miles per hour or 33 kilometers per hour. And the weather, apart from a few brief showers, it's mainly fair. And there is an advisory in areas raised as small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to locally rough seas. And the forecast for the Lesser Antilles. Cloudy at times with widely scattered showers over the northern Lesser Antilles. Elsewhere, fair to partly cloudy with a few showers. The weather summary: light and moderate easterly winds will continue across the Eastern Caribbean region during the next few days. Weak and stable conditions over the northern Lesser Antilles will cause some showers over that area during the forecast period. Elsewhere, generally fair weather will prevail. And this has been your weather forecast as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tile and Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style. Yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive. In Island Style.
We have times and insects, pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. Quality, price, service, choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Belarus and Rodney Bay on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's gas station on the Library Viewport Highway. So call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. And of course, over in Barbados yesterday, there was a hat trick, I guess you could say, performed by Mia Motley and the Barbados Labour Party. They were able to, in fact, get a repeat of 30 seats to naught, a resounding victory there, which ensures that she is returning to form another government over in Barbados. And so, of course, congratulations to her and her team. And perhaps a big question mark for the Democratic Labour Party. It's been around for quite a while. The party of the Grantley Adams and Tom Adams and David Thompson, and big question mark as to how they are going to be moving forward, given this the third consecutive resounding defeat where they really have not been able to even pull a seat. So it certainly does speak to the charisma of Mia Motley at the helm quite a bit. She's certainly been able to inspire people both in Barbados and across the region and the world. And certainly kudos to her and her success, political success at this time. Of course, right here in St. Lucia, we at some point, probably maybe tomorrow, we'll be able to get into more of the matter. It's pretty topical right now, that of water and the water woes that the north of the island is facing due to, in large measure, the challenges with the raw water supply line connecting the John Compton Dam to the Thibbles treatment plant. Yet again, another rupture on that line, and certainly the replacement of that line cannot come fast enough. And unfortunately, the reality is that even though the financing is in place, just getting that project going, it's a mammoth project, multi-million-dollar project that is going to take some time. So the sad reality of our situation is that it's perhaps going to get worse before it gets better. And so we all have to be seeing how we can play our part in terms of water conservation and trying to do more with less effectively in terms of our water situation. It's a very difficult thing. We're using so much more water compared to maybe 20 years ago or 40 years ago. Certainly we're using a lot more water than our peasant ancestors were using. And we'll, of course, come to that in just a bit. But everybody now is using a car. They want to wash that car on a weekly basis. They want to water their lawn. They want to do their laundry however many times a week. And all these things that are all, of course, adding up to the overall water demand per person. That rate is effectively going up. And then on top of that, of course, the economic activity that the island terribly needs. So it is certainly a lot of pressure. And another reality of what we face is that our demand is seasonal, and it actually goes up, especially around this time. We're looking at lots of cruise ships coming in during this period of time. They, of course, want to take on water, and of course, lots of hotels at full occupancy, and that's when we have our water scarcity is at its greatest because of the dry season. So that just, of course, all compounds the matter. But we're gonna put that on a hold for the time being, so that we can come to discuss on the shoulders of peasants. Latest publication out by Mrs. Louise Martha Serrier. and it is in fact dated this year, 2026, and it was also one of the books that was featured at the recently concluded Writers in the Spotlight event, which was held at the South Lewis Community College and the Hunter J. Francois Library, putting that on. And it is very, very interesting indeed. And just a little bit about Louise herself. St. Lucian historian and research consultant with a strong, passionate, she's very passionate about uncovering and sharing Caribbean history and the use of research and data in giving a voice to the lived experiences of ordinary people while also informing solutions. And she holds a bachelor's in economics and history with first class honors, as well as an MPhil in history. And she is, of course, our guest today to tell us all about her publication, On the Shoulders of Peasants. Louise, thanks so very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Alex, for inviting me here. And thank you for this initiative. I noticed that you've been highlighting a lot of what's been happening during Nobel Laureate Week, and you've been inviting St. Lucian authors here. And I think one of the last shows you held where you had an author here about the code.
Yes,
it really sparked
exception
my
code.
interest. The
Yes.
exception code. It sparked my interest in the book, and so now I want to run to buy the book. So I think
Yes.
that's a great initiative. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you so very, very, very much. We had the cry so much we don't know our history. We're not aware of ourselves. We don't. As a result, of course, we tend not to have as much pride in who we are. And you compare, let's say Barbados, for example, and their motto, pride and industry, it's up there, and they're very vociferous and very aware about their history. But unfortunately, the average St. Lucian does not have that. It's been a very long lament. And for you, I mean, your own journey, maybe you want to speak about that a little bit as to how you got interested in history.
My interest in history goes so far back. I really don't know what sparked it. It's more than just an interest. It's a passion that goes probably way back to when I was a teenager. I always loved history. I always loved the idea of uncovering the story of ourselves and the way in which it empowered me or enlightened me. I felt a sense of taking myself out of the darkness, in a sense that a lot of the things that I learned about history from going beyond what they taught us in the history classes, it opened my eyes in the sense that I felt like there was sort of a limitation in what we were taught and then what was available out there for us to some extent. I also saw that what the history you taught as a history student in A level, it goes into spaces and details that you're not exposed to in secondary or primary school.
Right.
So that's in itself, I was like, what more don't we know? And beyond that, when I was about 16, I read Capitalism and Slavery by Eric Williams. And it brought together two areas that I loved very much, economics and history.
Right.
And then it opened my eyes to the extent to which there are economic explanations for a lot of the things that impact us today, and the way in which we understand colonization went beyond just changing the state, the political, social, and economic state, but the state of the way people perceive themselves.
Right.
So, yeah.
And really, when you think about it, I mean, most history is about economics, the drive of seeking out resources,
Yes.
wealth, when we hear about these kings and queens and all of that, all these marriages that may be done to, gain control. It's about control of economic control, economic
Yes.
power.
And then there are times when people are told a story where there are layers of something else. Like, we're doing this because we're a mother country.
Some benevolent stories.
Yes,
so
benevolent
yeah.
stories. And these things affect, I think, how people behave. And it's important for us to see beyond what is told to us and understand. For example, Eric Williams's book, when he wrote that book and he told that story, it was not well received in Britain, because
Right.
there he was exposing that it was not a mother country case. It was,
Yes.
here's all of the data to show it was an extraction of wealth.
Yes.
Extraction of wealth from the colonies
Yes.
and a benefit. How can the Britain benefit from these colonies? And so back then, he faced a lot of backlash for sharing that. But I think more and more now, it's becoming more widespread knowledge of what colonization was all about. And I think going back to your question, I can't remember when I became so passionate about history, but more and more I saw the need for it to, the more I went into it, the more I saw the need to share more of it. Even when I was at Cave Hill, I saw a lot more books on the history of Barbados than on the history of St. Lucia.
Right.
And that's something a lot of St. Lucian historians themselves have lamented.
Right.
Thankfully, a few years ago, we had the history of St. Lucia coming out, Hampson, Julian, and Dubois. But prior to that, the last comprehensive history of St. Lucia was maybe
Outlines of St. Lucia history by Father Charles Jess.
Well, that's one,
That was,
but I think there was a 1951 book by a former, I'm forgetting his name, Breen had this book about St. Lucia, and that
but Breen is like from
way back,
the
1840s, right?
Yeah. So,
and so I think that lack of we know that there is a link between how patriotic persons are and how they exist within their society and how much pride and how they function. The link between that and how much knowledge they have of their country's history.
Right.
And so we know it's impacting us, so we have to do something about it. And I felt like, okay, I have this story here. I could leave it sitting there, or I could ensure that
it's interesting though, because you actually bridging these two very interesting areas of history and economics in terms of your own studies. And when we think about tourism, in most places, most countries, you have some places that specialize in the Sun-Sea and Sand, the Caribbean, but Europe, Italy, France, the United Kingdom, these places where a lot of people go to in the millions. Millions of Americans head to Europe every summer, every year, and it's about the history, it's about the heritage, and we have not quite perhaps keyed in sufficiently in terms of our own economic approach. That yes, we're into tourism, but the tourism has to have some underpinning on heritage, a heritage economy.
Yes. So you're thinking that that bridge in itself, the economic and history bridge. What was your question? Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying that we seem to think about tourism as something that is somewhat just removed, and it's only about sun, sea, and sand.
Yes.
But what drives a lot of tourism around the world, whether people are heading to Egypt or Israel or Europe or they're going to Peru, and they're going there largely because of this sense of history, this heritage that exists in these places. Whether it's they're going to Mexico and they want to be thinking about the Mayans, and that's what is attracting a lot of people. It's perhaps the most important driver for tourism.
Yes. Just a few days ago, I was speaking to somebody and I said that we're trying to find our unique selling point.
The
but
authenticity.
we don't understand that it's in who we are. It's in our history. It's in our heritage. It's in our culture, and we need to dive deep into that. And as far back as the 1960s, I remember while I was doing this research, I saw this paper where Beckford was part of a team of expertise on development economics. And he said that we need to stay away from the Miami Beach model as far as developing our, because we're not going to compete.
Right.
So we need to look at what is our unique selling point. And that comes from diving deep into, and it's a team effort. So we as historians could contribute to that by sharing our own research, our work, and so I definitely agree with you, and we have we have a lot to be proud of, and we have some work to do with regards to diving into that.
But your decision though to study this particular period in our history, a period that's quite often perhaps not really considered. I mean, we hear about the period of warfare, the back and forth between the British and the French colonial powers fighting for St. Lucia. And then we kind of get a sense, well, one of them was victorious, and then we then kind of shift our time focus to maybe emancipation. And so you have a lot of study around this whole idea of emancipation, and especially, of late, I suppose the interest in reparations has brought that into focus a little bit more. But you're looking at a particular period that quite often is glossed over, is not really understood at all. So speak to that time frame and why you thought it was important.
My work starts at the post-emancipation period. And it's funny how it happened where I was studying the economy of St. Lucia, and I started off from 1897 because I saw the commission report at
West
that
India
time
Commission
as
report.
as a point where I could start off, because I was looking at the rise of industries when I was doing my thesis. But then I kept seeing the mention of the peasantry, and that is what they call them. And in the as early as the 1880s, because I would have been reading before 1897, I would have seen they mentioning, here's the peasantry who are the reason our cocoa industry is thriving. So they're at the forefront, they're cultivating lands, they're doing a lot of work. And so I was like, let me learn more about the peasantry. But first, let me go all the way back to when they walked out of the
estates,
how they walked away from at the end of emancipation, how they went from persons who had obtained their freedom to persons who own land to persons who were contributing significantly to the export sector. So that's why I decided to start it here. So at first I would have been looking at the cocoa industry, the rise and the fall, the role in it. Then I went into other industries. You see the lime, the coconut, and the coconut, the banana industry as well, the early banana industry, not green gold. I wanted to look at that foundation so that we could see their contribution from that point and how it contributed to what happened later on as well. But more importantly, I wanted to learn all of the innovative ways in which they became persons who left these plantations with nothing and became persons who had hundreds of acres of land and were contributing to the export industry and of course changed the face of St. Lucia's economy and society, because they ended up contributing to changes in policy and so on. So that is why I ended up going all the way back to the post-emancipation period.
Right. And I think that there has been some work that was done, I think, for example, by Dr. Michael Louis, I think, in looking at that period shortly after emancipation, I think 1848, and when I think he, in fact, even termed a sort of a peasant revolt of sorts, this whole period, where there were, in fact, laws that were being passed to make it more difficult for these small landholders to be able to survive. And they were being taxed, whereas the quote-unquote big boys were not.
Yes, Michael Louis worked on the political structure and the changes in St. Lucia society because of the peasantry. The peasant sector is really an excellent piece of work, and it's something I make reference to in my book as well. And I definitely think it's one of these critical resources if you're studying the peasantry in St. Lucia. And definitely, when I went back, similar to what he saw, I would have seen all of these laws that were put in place when they left the plantations, so to speak. They would have been walking out, and it was clear that they had a perception of having that sort of self-determination and becoming landowners and building themselves in a certain way. But from the point of view of the colonial heads, they would have been discussing, even not in St. Lucia yet, but in the House of Commons, when I looked at the old documents in what was happening right around emancipation, they would have been discussing, well, how do we, we've granted them emancipation, but how do we keep them working on the plantation? Because we need labor on the plantation, and we need things to not be thrown up in the air. But so while that was being discussed, and while, things such as the head tax in households and the tax on land and tax on tools, tax on horses, tax on everything to force them to need constant flow of earnings, to force them to have to go back on the plantation. While all of that was being put in place, they were thinking, okay, how do we strategically acquire land? How do we work together now that we acquired that land? Even things like the métayage. So we have Adrian, who studied the métayage in St. Lucia, where they were able to rent land when they couldn't own, and they participated in that towards buying land. And so even when they participated in the métayage system, And they in the Metier system were saying, okay, I'm going to do this for a few years so I could buy this land. The persons who were renting to them were like, well, they're going to do that for me so that I could earn from that land that I otherwise would not have been able to utilize. So, I mean, it was two contradicting things that were going on, but I was really impressed with all of the innovative ways in which they found ways to go beyond the obstacles that were placed in their way. Yeah, to actually become persons who contributed both to feeding the nation and to helping contribute to the export industries. Yeah.
How important was these external factors like the sugar industry and sort of like almost the collapse of the sugar industry? The production of beet in Europe and what that did for sugar. I mean, why was that especially, or how important was it to the rise of this peasantry?
It was critical. It was critical. My first chapter, I called it a crisis called opportunity. Because with the collapse of the sugar industry, desperate times called for desperate measures, so to speak. But they saw it as an opportunity where, in a society where they were not expected to contribute to the sugar industry, in their minds, we're working towards becoming persons who own land and grow cane. So with the collapse of the industry, where there were not enough plantations to contribute to the sugar factories, the sugar factory owners were then willing to purchase from the peasantry. So a lot of them got their start by selling sugarcane to the sugar factories and building from there. And I mean, we learned that there were disadvantages where they were not necessarily paid. I mean, I mentioned it in the book where sometimes the sugar factory owners preferred to buy from them because they could pay them less. And that was sad, where it's almost like one of the many sacrifices they made towards building themselves and building St. Lucia's economy, in a sense. Yeah. They faced a lot of unfairness, which is why I felt that the only thing worse than them having done all of that and contributed to the economy in that way is us not knowing that story. Yeah.
Right. But also I'm also thinking that even the access to land, as a result of a lot of these estates effectively going bankrupt.
Yes.
Was also another factor.
They were able to access a lot of abandoned estates. They were able to purchase these subdivided estates that were being sold off to sort of quickly acquire something from the losses from the sugar crisis. And so in various ways, it's something I go through, the various ways the sugar crisis was an opportunity, so to speak, that was very timely for the group of persons, that the landholders and farmers that they referred to as the peasantry. And so St. Lucia had a lot more, already being an island that had a lot of available land, but it was even more in terms of all of the abandoned sugar estates. And so we went from being a place with certain 100 sugar estates to being like, okay, we have like 4 active estates at some point, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Now, you also go into detail about some of these new industries and new areas that these peasants actually decided to get into. You mentioned like the lime industry, for example. I think a lot of people may not be aware that limes was a crop of interest, at a particular time. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the lime industry. And I remember when I told somebody the lime industry, there was a lime as in citron. Yes, lime as in the citrus lime.
Right.
At one point, we had the lime industry as one of the major export industries in St. Lucia. And so I covered these industries that were, according to the agricultural department's stratification of industries, they would have acquired that holding of major industry, which means it contributed a certain amount to exports. And so with the lime industry, it was something where, knowing the kind of ways in which the peasantry could contribute to driving an agricultural export economy, things were put in place to support them as they went into that industry. And one of these things was Castries had a lime factory where they would bring their limes and
And for those
extract
people, that it's really the lime oil that they're actually of the
lime
skin
oil,
of
yes.
the limes that
There
they're
were
actually
cases
grinding.
where they would do exports of actual green limes, and there was some small attempts to export lime juice when the industry was failing.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that was it, lime oil. And there was some estates that had what they call equalers, which was that thing that you'd extract.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something heavily done by women. So the photo on my book at the cover is actually a group of women carrying limes. And one of the things
I
that
think, for example,
Yeah.
in the current area, for many people who pass by this mill and on the back road there, I think it was actually a lime mill. Actually, that's a lime factory.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But the sad thing about the peasantry is that not only did they contribute to, and I probably should say, the peasantry is used in Caribbean studies, but we don't actually. I think I make a case at the end of the book for us to not really use that term anymore
Right.
because of the connotations around it. But it is the official term that's still being used in Caribbean studies to refer to, across the Caribbean, to the group of persons who emerged as landholders from post-emancipation. Well, according to some persons argue that there was some groups of peasantry before as well, but yeah, I
of course,
wanted to
coming to
say
that-
that for our listeners because
Right.
I had a friend who was like, peasants, you call it ancestors peasants, let me fight you. I was like, I explained it to her and she was like, oh, I understand.
Yeah, and then I guess the question is then, when did the peasants not become peasants anymore? When did they actually
Safa.
go
He asked that
go
question.
beyond?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, this is what
Because some of
I
them
did not
were
see.
very successful.
Yes.
In
And the thing is, there was a lot of cooperative, collaborative work among them. And so you'd see there was a group of them in Denry who purchased 600 acres of land together, and so they were secretly making these moves together and then trying to contribute to the community they lived in. So like paying school for children and things like that. So Safa Lewis wrote a paper. It was unpublished. I was so happy to come across it about the peasantry in the Caribbean. And he said the point at which a peasant stops being a peasant. Like, it's a question that we have yet to answer, but they continued calling them the peasantry. And I'm wondering if it's more about
derogatory,
the
perhaps,
origins
deliberate.
it is to separate them from the planters and planters, the previous
The establishment.
planters, yeah. But that is something for the next book, maybe, to go into, to deep dive and look at all the use of the term peasantry. But I wanted to say that as a side note. But definitely.
Now, of course, some people may be wondering, and before we forget, how can one actually access this book? I mean, before, because of course, really should be not just for students of history, but individuals who want to understand St. Lucia a little bit more, understand where we're coming from. How would one get this?
So this book is available on Amazon. You could get it in ebook, hardcover, or paperback. And currently, I do have some on island, so you could also get some from me.
Right.
I am working on in terms of getting them into certain stores. So if you follow me on Lou Nouvelle, you'll see as I post where
that's the social media name.
Yes,
Okay.
Lou Nouvelle on Instagram.
You may want to spell that out first.
LOUNOUVEL.
Okay, and you can check it out on Instagram.
Or you could my name as well on Facebook as well. You could follow me there. And so we will be posting where it would be available on island, because beyond that, I made it available in certain libraries. So we have been going in to ensure that students could access it as a reference material. So if you're a student at SAFA, it should be in the SAFA library. If you're a student in Vieux-Fort Compre, it's in the resource room at the A-level department. It's in the Micoud library. I also wanted to ensure that it's out there for students who may not be able to purchase the book right away, could actually go in and read about their history. And so, yeah, that's definitely.
When you, looking back and seeing how innovative, productive our ancestors were, and we think about the current state of affairs in terms of agriculture, is there stuff that should be learned from this in terms of our approach moving forward, in terms of our land and agriculture in particular?
Definitely, perhaps we may have moved away from the tendency to work collaboratively,
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps we could look at that as something that could help us at the dire times, in terms of kudme was something that was widely used, the participation of entire extended families and the farmers going into
Mm-hmm.
each other's farms and supporting each other. All of these
Mm-hmm.
are things that I was able to pull not just from
So before they were
prime.
cooperatives, they were in fact they
Yeah.
were cooperating.
Yes, and that helped them because at
Yeah.
the time labor is the highest cost when you're trying
Right.
to make land productive. And so that's really helped to build us to a point where once we had enough, we moved away from it. But I think sometimes we look back and we see these are very valuable things in society.
Mm-hmm. And the I mean, they were producing largely for the local market. Were they
Yeah.
exporting? What were they doing?
They produce largely for the export market.
Exports.
But I think one of the wonderful things about them is that we were consuming what they produce as well. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of, and I think that is where we're disadvantaged right now.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes we've moved a lot. There's a lot less consumption of what the farmers are producing
Mm-hmm.
now. Persons tend to have more
Relative to how much is
interest.
coming from the outside.
Yes,
Yeah.
more interest in consuming imported goods.
Right.
And so there's an impact, a broader impact of us not eating what
Mhm.
is produced by, and we learn that lesson there in that, yes, they ended up contributing a lot to the export industry,
Mhm.
but the foundation that helped to build them was the fact that there were various parts of our culture at the time where you're thirsty, you drink coconut, jelly coconuts. They could sell that when there's nothing for export
Yes.
market. They could sell other things
Yes.
that we would consume. More provisions, more consuming what was locally produced was really important to their maintaining a certain base for them to go into the
Right.
export.
Right.
Yeah.
And for you, what would you say in terms of somebody reading this? What do you think would be the main takeaway for them, or main takeaways?
I think the main takeaway for me is that there are unsung heroes that we have not even begun to learn about, and that is the disadvantage of not knowing some sections of our history or not focusing so much on it. And I feel like there's a sense of national pride that comes from learning about them that we miss out on. And I felt an immense sense of of I feel in terms of pride, their resilience was admirable. And it was sad that when I called the book On Their Shoulders, it was from two parts in terms of it. They built a large part of our economy on their shoulders, but also suffered a lot from industry collapse. They were very vulnerable and exposed. So they faced a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's from two senses, but the ways in which they overcame to contribute not just to the economy, but they changed the face of society, and then they became people who impacted policy. So I speak about that in the last chapter. And then I also found that there was a lot of repeating of the same thing, and there were a lot of misinformation that persons would be guided by because they did not study that history. So you even see that in the book. So I think
Repeated
these are the
mistakes.
two repeated mistakes. So
Okay.
we need to know our history so that we can learn from it, and we need to learn details about our history that's going to help us to see the reasons why we should be proud Lucians. Yeah.
Well, that's a good
The
way.
many reasons.
Indeed. And of course, we've been speaking with Mrs. Louise Matre Serrier. She is the author of On the Shoulders of Peasants. She's a historian, and she has decided to put her thesis into publication effectively, looking at a very important time in our history as our ancestors emerged and began taking ownership of the island effectively, in terms of land ownership, in terms of the economy. And so it's a very, very interesting book, and it is available on Amazon. And of course, you can also check out her social media handles, Lou Nouvelle, Lounouvel.
Yeah, and my name as well.
Or Louise Matre Serrier. You can check her out as well on those on social media. if you want to get yourself a copy of this. And again, it's called On the Shoulders of Peasants, brand new publication for 2026.
And the official launch for the book is part of the Independence calendar.
Okay, yes.
Next on the 19th, it will be a press launch, so you'll be able to join us on NTN and be part of that.
Okay, so that's next week. Next week, Thursday. So we're looking out for that, of course. And thanks so very much again, Louise, for joining us here at the lunchroom, and of course sharing with us this wonderful publication of yours. Hopefully lots of people will go out and make sure that they get it, and it's going to be very good reading. It's over 100 pages, and so you get some time over the couple of days to be able to get into it. And hopefully, Louise, who knows, we might be able to get you to come back again and tell us about the feedback that people are actually providing. But thanks again. And of course, thanks to all our listeners.
Thank you.
And we'll be back again tomorrow for another program of the Lunchroom here on Radio Caribbean International. Have a good one.